Hello, vinyl community. Mike from Mike Guitar Player 07 here, coming at you live with another vinyl record video. And today, I have a very special guest. Very special for multiple reasons, of course, but the most important is that she is the newest VC member and the youngest VC member. The torch for the youngest VC members has been removed from Dylan, Marikin, Emma, and myself, and has been passed on to the lovely Jenna that's right next to me here from Spins and Needles.
I was like a little circling shark. I was like, when am I going to pounce in any moment? So I guess now's the time.
Absolutely. So it's very exciting.
I was going to say, I feel like I'm watching this video. I feel like I'm not even in it.
Yeah, but so we have the amazing Jenna here. She's getting close to 100 subs now. I saw last time she had somewhere between 66 and 70 subscribers the last time I checked, which is fantastic. I was subscriber number 30.
Oh yeah, I'll always have that right in here.
And yeah, so one of the way, I mean, of course we know that there's a bunch of collab videos going on in the VC. Quarantine has allowed that to happen more so than it had in the past. And, you know, I want to invite Jenna because Jenna is very new. I was the person, probably one of the first people to shout her out, if not the first. I'm not sure.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And, you know, I like to give her some support on top of her being a new channel and having one of the most impressive collections in the VC. I was blown away from the first 3 videos alone, and then she just keeps going on and on. I'm just, whoa. And, you know, and of course, it's nice to have some more females in the VC as well because pretty male dominated. So that was also very cool.
Yeah, no, I'm pumped. I'm pumped. Let's go.
Absolutely, yeah. Jenna just wants to jump right into the video.
Like, let's go. I don't even know what I'm gonna say, so like, we're just gonna see what happens.
Yeah. So pretty much, what our video is going to be about today, as you can tell from the title of the video, is live albums. Now, it's funny because me and Jenna talked about this a couple nights ago, what our collab video is going to be. And then the morning after, I see Chris Profi, Musically Obsessed. He posted a video about a thread that he created saying, give me some live albums. I'm just like, oh no. So we had this idea beforehand, but we'll dedicate this to Chris Profi as well because we could consider this a thread response at the same time. So Jenny, you're the guest, so I will let you choose first. We both chose 5 albums, and then we have some honorable mentions. So.
All right, I'm gonna start. Now, this one might not be considered to be live album of time, but this is kind of my point of view, how I discovered live albums is, so when I was little, my parents kind of always listened to the same thing over and over again, and it was mainly like Toby Keith and Shania Twain, which I loved, but I just got tired of hearing it over and over again. So I'd not really gone into other genres before, but when I was kind of sick of it, I had a little Discman, like boombox kind of thing, and I always had it underneath my bed because I didn't really use it that much. And one time I discovered my mom had like this book, like thing of CDs by Billy Joel, and it was like a collection. So every night I would listen to like one of the CDs, and I would like play it over and over and over again. That was the first thing I heard other than, you know, like the modern country music. So being that Billy Joel was always like my first kind of go-to, his live album, this is the Carnegie Hall 1977. This was a Record Store Day release this past Record Store Day, I believe. Not the Black Friday one, but like the actual one. And so normally for Record Store Day, like I don't really have something I'm like gonna wake up super early for. I'm like, I'll go, and if it's still there, I'll pick it up. But when I saw this was getting released, I set my alarm clock. I was ready. I got in the line, and I picked it up. Thank God. It's a double album, and this just like checks all like the boxes for me and got me into live albums just because it was all the songs that I grew up hearing like of Billy Joel's early career from that, you know, kind of greatest hits CD sung live. And I'm a live album girl, so this just always gets me going. It's got Miami 2017, Lights Go Out on Broadway. I always love the sound of like the synthesizer. That always gets me going. The second I hear that, I know what's happening next. It's got some good ones. Just the Way You Are, She's Got Away. Like, it always makes me sad. There's lots of ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster. And I'm on this roller coaster. I'm always on the ride, and it always just makes me so happy. And Billy Joel was like one of my first concerts ever. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that 77. That was around the what was it? The Stranger tour, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one that I unfortunately missed out on that live release. So if I ever find it, I'd love to have it. But I
was gonna say pick it up, because both this one and then like this might be my favorite like recorded Billy Joel like on vinyl. He has like his Russian album, which is really good too, and even like the concert movie is crazy good too. I just really love. I first fell for his early stuff, and this totally gets all of his stuff from like Cold Spring Harbor to New York, or not New York State, mind the Stranger. And so I think that's probably why this might be my favorite, but the Russian one always is second place for Billy Joel.
Yeah, Kolchak was one that my mom had on CD. My mom had almost every single Billy Joel album, either be on CD or vinyl records. So I do have that one, and I acquired live the like 2010, 12, whatever time, but those are the only live Joel albums I know.
What you got hiding there?
All right, so there are a couple on CD because they're just so essential, and I just don't have them on vinyl record. And this one is one I just am going to own on vinyl record one day. I just haven't bit the bullet to buy it yet because it's a box set, this one. And the first one is Led Zeppelin's How the West Was Won.
I love it.
I
should have picked the Zeppelin. It was in my like honorable mentions, but I didn't pull the trigger.
Okay. I love the CDs for this. It just looks so cool. It's a Swan Song logo, but like as you progress the discs, it gets more and more filled out and colored.
I love it. That's awesome.
And believe it or not, this is one of the 2 Zeppelin albums that were in my grandfather's collection.
He's diving into the rock and roll.
Yeah, he didn't have any Zeppelin on vinyl record, but on CD he had How the West Was Won and Physical Graffiti, and I was like, all right, cool.
I love it.
So this was recorded, this was in the 70s, I think. It was like 72 era, I believe. I'm making sure it says it here somewhere. Yes, June 25th and June 27th of 1972, this was recorded. This was recorded in the LA Forum in Long Beach. And so California recording.
All right.
You know, this is just fantastic. I love all the Zeppelin live albums except for Song Remains the Same. That one's kind of like for me, but other than that, I love them. And you know, the highlight of this, I mean, as if it's not an entire highlight as it is, but Moby Dick from Zeppelin 2, the near 20-minute drum solo does. Man. And, you know, going to California live, I mean, it hits you on Zeppelin 4, but then you hear it live.
Oh, yeah. It stabs you.
And, you know, Dancing Days, I wish I was around, like, for the House of the Holy tour that they did. My neighbor let me borrow some Zeppelin bootlegs, and I think one of the recordings that he had on record was a bootleg from the House of the Holy tour. Dancing Days is on here. I would have loved to see Zeppelin in the day, have Dancing Days. Dancing Days was one of my very first songs by Zeppelin that I fell in love with. And
wow.
And I could just imagine like myself dancing. Yeah, my Zeppelin. It was interesting. In 8th grade, I fell in love with Zeppelin. And I was at my uncle's house, and I wanted to borrow a bunch of Zeppelin albums. So I pulled out Zeppelin 1, Zeppelin 4, and Mothership from his collection. Then we all went out to dinner, and it had just happened to be my birthday. So I opened up my gifts. It was a Zeppelin complete studio box set. So I nicely returned the CDs that I didn't need to borrow anymore.
Yeah.
Then I fell in love with Zeppelin right away from that. And I was already going into it. So that was great. Yeah. My first box set.
Wow, that's awesome.
But I remember in the 7th, 8th grade talking to my music teacher, or not my music teacher, my math teacher, about Led Zeppelin. We would always bond over the song The Ocean for whatever reason. But I always told her how much I was jammed at Dancing Days on the school bus to school in the morning. But yeah, this is just flawless. And of course, you have things like Immigrant Song, Stairway to Heaven. What's interesting, it has Bon Your Our Stomp. I don't know if I'm ever pronouncing that right, but
there are so many of those ones. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's nice to have a deeper cut like that on here. So that's my first pick, and this is just fantastic.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin is definitely just a live band where like you could probably have every concert on vinyl and it would all sound like perfect and like just different. Like each one sounds different. They always find a way to tweak things and like make it seem like you're hearing it for the first time.
The Grateful Dead too. Grateful Dead.
Grateful Dead too. So we'll just use that as a segue to the next one. Yeah.
I wonder if we're gonna pull out the same thing.
I don't know. Well, probably. This one's pretty. Let's see. Yeah, I always have it this way, but I guess it's this way. But
I never know.
Yeah.
So I guess
let's see. Where to even begin? Me, I'm a live album girl, and so getting into the Grateful Dead was pretty easy, you know, especially their live stuff. And this one I think is definitely their easiest to find and probably like the cheapest for me, because sometimes I see some of their live albums just go up for so much, and I'm just like, I can't afford that. But this one, I'm glad I could, because it might be like my favorite. But they're again one of those like bands that they have so many bootlegs that you could just never get them all. But I think this really sums it up when it's all their highlights and stuff. So
yeah.
What's your favorite song off of this album that you think?
This has my favorite version of Truckin' on it.
I was gonna say this might have my favorite version of Sugar Magnolia on it, and I loved the brown-eyed girl.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Tennessee Jet is fantastic on here too, and they only did that live. They never recorded that on a studio version.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, it just always hits the right spot for me, and it's always it keeps me in a good mood, because some live albums can like take it down and I get kind of sad. The only like part where I really get sad in this live album is He's Gone. I'm like, oh, that's a little hard spot for me, but other than that, I'm always in a good mood. So, and I played this not that long ago. It was like 11 and I hadn't eaten yet, and I was like, crap, I need to eat. So I went to McDonald's and I got myself a burger and just sat on the floor with my dog and listened to this album, and just like sadly ate by myself and listened to this album.
So He's Gone really hit you that moment.
Yeah, I was like, all of a sudden a sad album. But it got me up, man. It really did. I just love everything about it. Yeah. And the artwork was crazy too.
I was going to say the artwork is fantastic too. Yeah, I actually only spun the vinyl record version of this only once, because I have it on my iPod or my phone really. I don't really use my iPod anymore, believe it or not. But I have my dad's friend let me borrow his CD version of this, so I have it on my iTunes. But there's another great recording from May 16th, 1991. In a Giant Stadium in New Jersey, actually. So it hits right home for me, even though I wasn't alive then. But that's another great live album that was released. I don't know if it's still available because it was a limited run. I did get it on CD for Christmas this past year, but that's another great live one that you need to get.
I was going to say, I'm going to have to rewatch this and write it down.
Yeah, I'll tell you that.
Like kind of a sad inner sleeve, like could have used a little oomph.
Yeah, I literally opened that expecting some of like Jerry Garcia. You know how John Lennon always has in his album like, original drawing? Jerry Garcia did a whole bunch of original drawings. Why didn't they put something like that in there? But
I don't know. It's like it hits every mark, but then like the inner sleeve, it's like, come on, that can't be the one bad thing about this album. But here we are.
Oh, we just both knocked out our second one for 2 for 1. So.
Well, is there anything you want to add on that? I feel like that's a quick one.
No, that one's pretty, that's so common. It's fairly self-explanatory.
Yeah.
So this next one, y'all are going to be surprised if you're following my channel that this has made this list, because this is my most recent live album acquisition.
Okay, go ahead.
And I love live albums, but they're not usually albums I want to put the stylus right back onto side A again. Mm-hmm. Like I can with some studio albums. Live albums are kind of like an experience. You listen to it through once and then you kind of shelve it.
Yep.
If people who are following my Retro Spin Vinyl Instagram page knows I spun this yesterday. So that kind of dates when this is being recorded versus when I actually post the video. But I swear I was making brownies in my pants listening to this. I was just blown away. And this would be Genesis live. Oh my goodness. So obviously Bill sent me this in a recent VCLT video. Y'all saw that. So this was recorded on their tour supporting their album Foxtrot. And, you know, Watch of the Skies is opening both for that album and this album. And it just is an experience, man. I'm telling you, I loved every moment. But what really blew me out of the water, which I know that when you saw my VCLT, Jenna, you commented, if you like Foxtrot, you need Nursery Crime. This confirmed that. Not that, I already wanted it anyway, but this confirmed that. Because a musical box, literally, oh my God. So this is easily shot right up to the top, or near the top. And 1974, it has some nice shots of the band. This is technically Phil Collins, isn't it? But Peter Gabriel era.
Yep.
Genesis, and I'm still delving deeper into the earlier Genesis stuff. I have Bill over at the Vinylverse to thank for that, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have delved into the Phil Collins stuff deeper. I wouldn't have delved into any of it deeper. I knew the hits and I knew the album Duke, and that was about it. So I'm enjoying my ride when it comes to Genesis, and I literally put this on twice yesterday. I one right after the other. I just couldn't get enough of it. And right before we went live here, before you joined the Zoom meeting, I actually was playing Foxtrot Supper's Ready. I just had to hear that again, because I can't believe it took 22 years of my life to be able to hear that album. So
you're on Team Peter Gabriel then?
I don't
as far as the two go?
Because I don't know enough of either of them yet. I don't know enough of the eras to fairly judge that yet. I know more Phil Collins here because that's more mainstream, and that's the hit and all that. When it comes to Peter Gabriel stuff, in regards to Genesis, I know Selling England by the Pound and Foxtrot. That's pretty much it. And then this live album. Trick of the Tail is another one of the prog ones, but I believe that was Phil Collins, if I'm not mistaken. I'm still making my way through that. But
I was gonna say, and they have a pretty hefty discography too, so it still takes a lot of time, you know.
But Trick of the Tail and Selling England, and now Nursery Crime and Invisible Touch are my highest rails for that. So that is my next live album of choice.
You did not disappoint. Well, now I don't even know what you're gonna do after that.
Well. I know one of the ones that you're going to pick out. I don't know when you're going to pick it out, but I know you too well to know that you're not going to pick it out.
I have to end with that one. You know, that's we got to finish that one. But my next one was one of my first live albums I fell in love with. And I'm just going to take it out of this because it's going to glare really badly. But it's David Live.
Oh, nice.
I am a Bowie girl. I love everything about his music. I love just how easily he can transition into different eras, and he never is predictable. And that's what I like. You never know what you get. Every time I first bought an album of his that I haven't heard, I'm like, well, now I have no clue what this is going to sound like. Because I know it's not going to sound like everything else I've got. But this one is right in a sweet spot kind of era, because I think it was recorded on his Diamond Dogs tour. Okay. So it was right when he was kind of finishing up the glam rock era and going into his Young Americans phase, where it was kind of more jazzy and smooth and soulful. But so I think it's kind of nice. What? I'm sorry.
In the Berlin stuff.
Yes. Yeah. And then, you're going to go into the whole Thin White Duke thing. But I love, he kind of changes the songs up a little bit. And there's a lot more, piano, horns added to a lot of the songs. And he did, the Mott the Hoople song that he kind of gave to them, All the Young Dudes. And in the beginning of it, he kind of starts with, an a cappella versions of the kind of style for that song that I just fell in love with. And this is just a good night album. I will play this, and once it's done, I'm I can go to bed. This just finished off my day in a great way. And he's got the moves. You can even see in the just in the artwork itself. But
Oh yeah.
I love everything about David Bowie, and this live album did not disappoint me for sure.
Well, as you know, from watching my videos, I'm still delving deeper into Bowie. So I started that at the beginning of this year. So I have not heard that live album yet, but I am in the process. Dylan over at the Record Spinner just got a yellow pressing, like yellow wax copy of that album, and I'm just like, wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I just got like just a normal copy of it. I don't know if it's a first pressing. It's probably like, I don't know.
Around there.
Yeah, around there. It's old. I know it's old. It was just one that I got because this is one of the few albums I actually had a CD of, because when we'd be driving back from Nebraska back home, it'd be like a pretty hefty car ride, and I got that on CD at a thrift store, and I would always listen to that live album coming on back to my house. So it also has like kind of that kind of memory attached to it, but it works for any occasion. So
yeah, that's one I definitely want to get. I want to get David Bowie's entire discography, so that'll happen eventually.
Yeah, I've got a lot, like almost all of his early stuff, but going into like his Tin Machine or whatever, and afterwards, that's where it gets a little. I have like his like Black Star and stuff, but it gets definitely, there's lots of holes there in my collection when it gets to his later stuff.
Right. All right. So my next choice, everybody knows this is one of my favorite musicians of all time, so I'm sure you could guess what my next one after this is going to be for my main choices. But Johnny Cash at San Quentin.
Yes!
Of Johnny Cash's live works, this is probably his second best. It's definitely his second most popular. Second best. I've heard all of his live albums, and it holds up. What's very unique about this album is that he plays the song twice on this album. The title track, San Quentin. He sings it initially. It starts off side 2, and then the crowd wants him to play it again. So what does he do? He plays it again.
Oh, of course.
So when I'm shuffling my Johnny Cash on my phone, or, well, I guess I can't really shuffle a vinyl record, but on the CD version, I never know when San Quentin comes on which version I'm going to get until I get like a little bit into it. Mm-hmm. But, the most famous thing on this, rather than the duplicate version of San Quentin, is A Boy Named Sue, because the live version of that song is the main version of that song and the one that everybody knows. I'm actually not sure if they even have a studio version of that, if I'm being completely honest. And if so, it's deep in the vaults, very difficult to find. This is the version of that song you hear on Greatest Hits and everything. But of course, it has the hit I Walk the Line, Wanted Man, and the classic Wreck of Old 97. And it has Folsom Prison Blues too, but the version of Folsom Prison is a lot better than this version.
Yeah.
And, with Columbia Records, it's just so cool to show the 2i label.
Yep.
And Johnny Cash. For me, you can't really go wrong. There's only like 3 albums I can think of by Johnny Cash that are bad. Studio or live. So, but the 3 that I'm thinking of are studio albums. So, but also I'm biased because I like Johnny Cash a lot.
I was gonna say, Boy Named Sue. That was like, because when I first saw that album, I found it in an antique shop, and that was like the one song that was like, you know what, I'll do it just because I love that song so much. And I was not disappointed when I took that thing home. I was all in the second it came on, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely great, but you'll see on my next pick what his best live album is, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, you're going to have to educate me. So this one could be kind of not controversial because, but I might get some disagreements, at least for this band. I feel like when people are talking The Who, I feel like Live at Leeds is always the first one to get attention. And this was recorded in 1989. So Keith Moon is long gone, but and he's my favorite member of The Who just because I just love him. I love him to death. He's a crazy animal, but I love him. So if this is my favorite live album, one of my favorite live albums, he's not on it, then that says a lot for the music on this album. It's really dark. I'm sorry. I apologize. It's I think it's a 3 record box set. And The Who, when it comes to like a lot of their stuff on vinyl, I mean, I'm not really sure about all their bootlegs and stuff, but my favorite Who album is Tommy. And pair that with the fact that albums, there aren't many opportunities you get to hear Tommy in its entirety done live and on vinyl. So this was kind of my one and only opportunity to get that. So it goes through all of Tommy, and then it does a good portion, like a pretty good chunk of Quadrophenia, and then like their big hits at the time, and some of Pete Townshend's solo stuff. They did Rough Boys, and then they did Join Together, You Better You Bet, like some of their current hits at the time. But I just love how they kind of changed up Tommy for this. The drums, the only thing I don't really love is the drums have like kind of more the electric sounding drums that were like kind of hit at like it at the time, which I don't love, but they added so much horn to it, and they changed up some of the sounds on some of the songs. I used to hate the song Sally Simpson, but this live version of that song made me love it, and like they keep it interesting for sure. And the Acid Queen, the version of the on this is amazing. I love this album to death, and I play it probably way more than I should for a live album. So definitely I had to show that for sure.
What's the name of that live album?
Join Together.
Okay.
Join Together. Yeah, it's like a box set, so definitely recommend. But again, like it's probably not everyone, just because I know everyone is like goes for like their early stuff. And I love the early stuff. I love watching all of their concert videos from their early days, but records and like playing it is like, I just like to hear all of Tommy live. It's not one I'm not used to hearing as much as the original that I like grew up with. So
yeah, only within the past couple months have I actually heard the album Tommy for the first time. So
I was gonna say that's a lot. Just that's a lot in itself. Just to first hear Tommy for the first time and then hearing it live, I was like, now this is a little bit more spice.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, I definitely have to be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, no, it's awesome for sure. Pick it up if you see it.
Oh yeah. So as I hinted at, this is my next.
I knew it. I was thinking, but I didn't want to pull the trigger on it because I was like, who knows? You could surprise me.
So this is one of my favorite albums of all time. One of my favorite live albums of all time, if not the favorite live album of all time. And I should have pulled out the CD version because I have the two versions of the CD version. The original version, the way it was on vinyl, and the 1990s, I think it was 99, they reissued it with the full show. Because of the limitations of physical media at the time, they couldn't put the whole show on there. So.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So, well, also on the reissued version with the whole show, it's uncensored. So you could say hell or shit or whatever you want to say on there. You can't say hell or shit. How does that grab you, Bob? You know, like that's uncensored. And when I first bought the CD version with it, because I have this album from the Columbia Years box set, which is the censored version. When I bought the uncensored version, it kind of threw me off guard because I never knew what the word was. I mean, I kind of assumed, but like you never know. So, wow, where can I go with this? Well, it starts off with the classic, "Hello, I'm Johnny Cash." Do 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 do. Folsom Prison Blues. It goes right in. We all love it. I mean, there's nothing I can't say about that. But then it goes into Dark as the Dungeon, which, unless you hear this album, and that's what most people know, they don't really know studio albums, really. Most people, with the exception of like maybe Johnny Cash's Hot Blue Guitar, because it was his debut. It has a lot of his big songs on it. Mm-hmm. Or unless you're like me, I'm getting so excited, I'm spitting onto my record while I talk. But Dark as a Dungeon was one of my introductory songs for Johnny Cash's studio albums, because as people know in the VC, one of the first 4 Johnny Cash albums I got from my grandfather's collection was Orange Blossom Special, and the studio version, Dark as a Dungeon, is on that. Now, I know, Jenna, you don't know the full story of my grandfather's collection yet, VC, but you will get to hear that story very, very soon. And so it goes into Dark as a Dungeon, which is fantastic. A sad song, but fantastic. Then it goes into I Still Miss Someone. The closest thing to a spiritual and religious thing outside of going to like church was when I heard I Still Miss Someone, the studio version, about a month or two after my grandfather passed away. Now, I Still Miss Someone, the live version, I mean, obviously it's fantastic in the studio version, but like I was coming home from school one day, driving home, and I put on Johnny Cash's 16 Biggest Hits because at that time I was struggling to listen to a lot of my grandfather's music because everything was so new and all that. But I put on that album because I really love Johnny Cash and I really wanted to hear it. Well, I felt something. It sounds weird. I felt his spirit or something within me or with me when I heard that when that song came on. It was like the closest thing to like a religious experience outside of being in a church. Like I don't know how to explain it, but like that I will never hear that song the same now after that experience. Um, so there's that. And I know you always love hearing my stories with my grandpa.
Yes. Yes.
And then it goes into a song called Cocaine Blues, which I'm actually learning how to play that on guitar and all that stuff. That's a really fun one to play. Early one morning, I was making my rounds, took a shot of cocaine, and I shot my woman down. Yeah. But interesting fact about Cocaine Blues, there's a album by Johnny Cash called Now There's a Song, which is an entirely covers album by Johnny Cash. Songs that he did not do originally, but there's damn good renditions. And there's a song on there called Transfusion Blues. And that was the only version of the song you got until you got this album, which changed literally the word from transfusion to cocaine. And then you wouldn't get a studio version of Cocaine Blues until his album from 1979, Silver, which also features the hit Ghost Riders in the Sky. But everybody knows Cocaine Blues for this album. Mm-hmm. And, that's just a fun song. I mean, obviously a silly song, and obviously don't do drugs, kids. But then we go into, this is the one I really am passionate about, can you tell? And
no, keep going, man.
It goes into 25 Minutes to Go, which when I first heard that, I was like, I don't know where Johnny Cash gets these things for these stories, but he's just a great storyteller. That originally came off of a concept album by Johnny Cash called Johnny Cash Sings the Ballads of the True West. And it's one of the few songs off that album that you could listen to outside of the context of the entire album. And, the entire song is about, like, you're just doomed to be, you're getting a death sentence in 25 minutes. That's pretty much what the song is about. And why you're singing that to a bunch of jailbirds, I don't know. But, it was great. And then it goes into Orange Blossom Special, which is one of my favorite Johnny Cash albums of all time. So, of course, I love the self-titled title track. And, my only complaint about this song, the live version of Orange Blossom Special on here, is I feel like they could have done the harmonica better on the live version. And I feel like they could have done the drums during the harmonica section. I don't remember who's playing the drums in the Tennessee 3, but I'll tell you that he's beating the living hell out of those drums. It's a little too loud for me, a little too predominant. I mean, great performance, but
yeah,
the drummer's a little excited here. And then Johnny Cash starts to go into some more ballady songs, going and ending side one with The Long Black Veil, which is about someone who has passed on and then someone is visiting that individual's grave with a long black veil on, which is also featured on the Orange Blossom Special album. Then we get to side two, as if side one didn't slap. Side two, literally, send a picture of Mother. I mean, that's just a great ballady tune. The Wall is a fantastic ballad tune, which is also featured on Orange Blossom Special. A lot of songs on here from Orange Blossom Special, which is kind of interesting. But then it goes into one of Johnny Cash's more silly songs, Dirty Old Egg-Sucking Dog. So that song is just a joke in itself, but it's just kind of funny because, dog's man's best friend, which was featured on the album Everybody Loves a Nut from 1966. And the Dirty Old Egg-Sucking Dog, the way he does it live, I actually like the live version better than the studio version. And then, speaking of funny songs, which I don't think there's a studio version of this unless it was a single at some point, Flush from the Bathroom of Your Heart. If he ever sang that to an ex-lover, that's a punch in the face. Like
a little cruel there.
Yeah. And then, and of course, it goes into a duet with, not at the moment wife, but would later become his wife,
June.
Jackson, with June Carter Cash. And at the time it was only June Carter, but
Mhm.
it's just kind of funny how they do a duet after that. Thankfully, they didn't divorce, and that song didn't have a whole meaning between the two. But Johnny's first wife, well, I guess she could shove it, I guess. But he and Jackson is, I like the Carter family, and I like Johnny Cash, and I don't mind June Carter, but with the exception of the song Jackson, I don't love the duets Johnny Cash does with June Carter. I'm still I think I just need to get used to her voice and her duets, but it just doesn't do much for me at the moment.
Yeah.
But their
I was gonna
version,
say, I've not heard much of her, like the stuff that she did other than Jackson, really.
if I'm being honest, you're not missing a whole heck of a lot. The Carter family did an album called "Keep on the Sunny Side," which featured special guest Johnny Cash. And that album features the Carter family and, you guessed it, Johnny Cash. And they do a song called "The Wabash Cannonball," which is a traditional country tune. And I love me a good train song, so of course that's a great tune in my book. But that's a very I would try checking out the Wabash Cannonball featuring Johnny Cash
Okay.
and the Carter family if you want to hear something that has,
Mhm.
it has more than June Carter, but you
Yeah.
get. Then it goes into the song "Give My Love to Rose," which I don't know why he sang this with June Carter. They do good harmonies and stuff, but I don't understand why they did that together.
Mhm.
And it's interesting. I heard the "Give My Love to Rose" on American 4, A Man Comes Around, for the first time. So then I went back into his early catalog and heard the studio version. And then I hear this version. So it's quite a variety of versions of that
Yeah.
song. But, I must say the American 4 version is the best version. And then a very appropriate song to be singing in a prison, "I Got Stripes." I got stripes wrapped around my
He
shoulders.
really had a discography meant for that kind of occasion, you know?
He really did. Um, and I really like that tune. And my grandfather actually had the 45 RPM single of that song, one of the two
Oh, okay.
with Johnny Cash he had, because he had mainly 12-inch albums like this. This is from his collection. Um, and then he does a great rendition of the Porter Wagner tune, "The Green, Green Grass of Home." Um, I don't think Johnny Cash ever recorded that as a studio version. I will always take the original Porter Wagner version over Cash's version. However, this live rendition is great. And then what's really special about this is there's a song here called "Greystone Chapel," which I can't remember the name of the gentleman at the moment, but one of the jail cellmates in Folsom wrote that song and somehow was able to get it to Johnny Cash to perform that song. So literally the night before, and he even says it on the recording, the night before
Yeah.
he played that song for the first time and did a damn good rendition of it live the next day. So fun fact about that tune. I mean, he tells you a bit on the album anyway, but not everybody always pays attention to the talking in between the tunes. And, as I said at the beginning, I have the uncut version of this album and uncensored version, but I like this version better. Um,
You want to hear it all.
I like this one better. I think it's just because I'm used to this one compared to the other one. But I mean, the other one features like songs like "Blistered" on it before he got a hit on it from the "Hello, I'm Johnny Cash" album. But that is my last main choice before the um, honorable mentions. Those are probably my top live albums.
Well, you kind of already guessed mine, but this this is my favorite album of all time. And like I say favorite, I know it's not the best album of all time. Like I get it. But like there's
Live album.
definitely there's a difference between a favorite and the best, you know?
Yeah.
And that is Wings Over America by Paul McCartney and Wings. Ah!
It's my honor. It's one of my honorable mentions. If you didn't show it, I had to show it.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So I know people like to take a poop on this because after they like selected the best like recordings, they like overdubbed some of the like backing vocals. But like here's what I have to say: so many live albums do that because
Yeah.
like at the time, especially when this came out, there was another bootleg going around that had like some of the same songs, and so the only way you can really guarantee to sell your live album is if it has a significant amount of like quality compared to the other bootlegs. So like I'm okay, and it sounds amazing. It's getting really dark in my room. I'm sorry, but I had
Okay.
the windows open. Now it's just dark. But so where to even begin? I love like all of the versions of these songs so much better just because it's Paul and it's raw, especially like when they have that session where they sit up in the front and play their acoustics. And they do, I just love that, like their version of Bluebird when he's sitting down there. I love the harmonies, and it's just so fun. And I'll go in between watching Rock Show and then listening to, Wings Over America, just so variety. But I feel like he just sings with so much more passion when he has the audience there with him. I think he's definitely an audience-fueled musician. Like, you can just see as he's playing, he'll just like look at them and he just gets more fired up as he's going, and he gets really into it. And I just think hearing how much passion goes into his singing, knowing that like everyone's listening, it just shows how great of a musician he is. Like, I think that really makes it. If a musician sounds better like when they're live and has even more passion when they're live, then like they're perfect. So
and Paul McCartney sounds damn good in the studio, let alone live.
Oh yeah, definitely. But this seals the deal for me all the way. And like, I love Venus and Mars. So the fact that he like covers the whole basis of Venus and Mars in here. I love the version of Magneto and Titanium Man in here so much more. It's so much like more like peppy and like just a punch in you. And Call Me Back Again gets me emo in this one. I'm telling you, like it hits me in the feels every time I listen to this version of it. He's just I have nothing. Like, I don't even know what to say.
Now, I must say, I mean, anybody who knows me knows that Venus and Mars is my favorite Wings album. So the fact that this is for the Venus and Mars tour kind of made it for me, even though they didn't call it that. That was the most recent album before this. So. Now, do you have the original version of this, or do you have like the reissue that came out a couple years ago?
I have both.
Oh, okay.
There's like, it's kind of dark, but like you can tell the reissue is much darker.
Yeah.
But
now I know that initially, I don't know if you know this is originally going to be only a double LP or maybe even a single LP, but then that
like came out. Yep.
What made them do a 3-out version? And what I love about this is mine. This is an original, and what I love is that it came with the poster still.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love that picture.
And it's in such good shape for its age.
Yes. I feel like this, for some reason, this album is one to find the poster with, and I'm like, thank God. Because, like, if it was as hard as it is for, like, that, like, Dylan Greatest Hits, I know that poster for that album is never in there for some reason. I mean, it's a great poster, but I think this is one of those posters I'm like, why didn't anyone take it out? Like, it's a great poster. I would have had, if I bought this album back then, that would have been the first thing I did is hang up my poster and rep the album. But yeah, no, I keep mine in here.
Yeah, but you have 2 copies, so you have 2 posters, I assume.
Yeah, right? I do. Maybe I take the reissued one and I bring it with me to college. That might be my plan. So
maybe. But yeah, I mean, this is, of all the Paul McCartney live albums, and I haven't heard all of them, but I've heard a handful of them. This is definitely the best one.
I was gonna say, I love this album so much. I have like a few like kind of bootleggy and I also have I'm like totally distracted. Like I have like a few bootlegs of like a lot of the same songs on it. I just love him live. I just love Paul live. So like anytime I see like a bootleg from like around that time and it's like under like the $30 range, I will pick it up. Because like I just love everything about that whole era of live music for him. Just there was never a bad show in my opinion. So
that was, I mean, Wings really didn't put out a bad album for the most part. Mm-hmm. I do have 2. There is, we'll get there in a moment, but like the era with Venus and Mars and Wings at the Speed of Sound and all that, that's like the best era. But I love the rawness of Wildlife, but like I appreciate the more intimateness, but they weren't together. They didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
Because if you compare that to McCartney's debut McCartney that came out around the same time, it's like night and day. So
yeah, For sure. I definitely have to be in like a specific mood for wildlife. And I think it's good if because it definitely has a different sound compared to all the other wing stuff. And it's definitely one I play when I'm maybe gonna be doing something like around my room, like cleaning. So where I'm like not like fully invested in it. So maybe I need to listen to it more when I'm like super invested in it to like it more. But I still love the album. I still play it. It's but compared to all the other stuff like Venus and Mars and stuff, it can't
It doesn't.
compete. Yeah.
And I almost actually traded that album in, but then last second I was like, no, because I'm going to be a Wings and Beatles. That's when I started determining I'm going to be a Beatles completist and I'm going to have everything. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. So here's my next choice. Now we're on to honorable mentions for us. Now, I don't know how much you are in the realm of metal. Do you do any metal music at all?
I'm like that's probably where I'm the least educated is metal. I'm gonna be honest.
Okay, well, I'm going to educate you ever so slightly right now then.
I was gonna say go for it.
Because this is a live album from one of the starter metal albums out there. So, and once we're done recording, if you want me to go pull a studio album so you can see what it looks like, I can.
Okay, yeah.
This is Megadeth's Rust in Peace Alive, and it's one of the few ones I have on DVD as well.
Okay.
Now, Rust in Peace is one of Megadeth's most popular albums, next to their album Peace Sells, But Who's Buying? Of their original works, I should say. Let me take this out. This is having a little bit of a glare here. So that's what it looks like. And what I love about this album is in a similar realm with your Who live album, they played the album in its entirety, Rust in Peace Live, in its entirety.
Okay.
The only difference compared to the live album, compared to when they do the entire live album, compared to the studio album, is they have a song on here. It's the opening track called Holy Wars, The Punishment Due. And they just pretty much do a reprise at the end after they finish the album of that song. And then they just say, oh, thank you for coming, that kind of thing, before they go on to some non-Rust in Peace tracks that they did from other albums that came before this, from albums like, I'm drawing a blank at the moment. So Far, So Good, So What, Peace Sells, But Who's Buying, Countdown to Extinction, some of those other earlier albums. They do some songs from those albums. Actually, I think only those albums, if I'm not mistaken. But, what I love about this is that it sounds nearly identical to the studio album, with the exception of the crowd being in the background. The tone of the guitars, everything sounds so authentic to the original, because there's live albums where you're better listening to a dog take a crap, like it just, some live albums are terrible.
Oh yeah.
But with the exception of Dave Mustaine, which is a lead guitar player and vocalist, his vocals, you can tell he's singing it live, so there's some variations, but really rather than that, the instrumentations, being a music major and being a musician myself, I kind of can hear the subtle differences, but for the casual listener, you probably can't tell the difference between rather than the vocals, the instrumentation sounds so close to the original that it's impressive. And they have an album that they released getting close to 10 years ago at this point. I can't believe it. I remember when that came out, and I just never grabbed it.
Okay.
But it was a live album of their album Countdown to Extinction, which I would love to get one day, but just haven't. And that I kind of have to get on Amazon at this point, because physical retailers and all that are not really selling albums anymore, except for record stores. It's kind of sad, but oh well. So, even though I would not start with this live album in the realm of Megadeth or metal, the studio album, Rust in Peace, I would. So, there you go. So there's my
So that would be like my first live album, like in the metal genre, would you say?
Yeah, that would be one of them, yes.
Okay. Good to know. I need to get that is just the one genre I haven't even looked into. I feel like so many genres I'm going in and diving in right away, but for some reason I don't know, it's just I don't see too much metal in my stores. I don't know if it's just where I am, so it's just been the last one for me to get into. I'm just very much whatever's available is what I go on to next, but that's just definitely been something that's not been as available for me to get into. but it's on my list for sure.
Well, when it comes to metal, when it comes to the classic main three bands, Megadeth, Metallica, and Iron Maiden, I guess you could put Anthrax in there too, and
Okay.
but when it comes to metal, go for the reissues first. I don't know
Okay.
if you're one of those people who prefers originals versus reissues, or if you don't care at all. I mean, I prefer originals personally, but I don't mind a good reissue, especially when it comes. The jazz genre is the only genre that I'm like, okay, I need to get the reissues because I don't feel like spending $400 on an original copy of some album.
No joke. No joke.
Um, but I did find some originals for $20. I got a steal, but that's another story. But pretty
I was
much,
gonna say I'm watching those like Blue Note projects, and I'm like, I couldn't even begin to try to collect some of those albums. Like it would just be insane.
well, I might be getting some original pressings in the mail in the next couple of weeks from a friend. So we'll see
And
how.
there's gonna be a video coming out with some of those.
Oh, that'll be a video with that. Yeah, that will be a video. But, yeah. When it comes to metal music, usually the value is just like original jazz albums, sky high. So you want to kind of go for
Yeah.
the reissues or the originals on metal albums are generally not quite as crazy as the jazz ones, but they're still, you could be paying 50 to $100 easily for an original copy that's only VG.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Good to know.
yeah, metal. Your first metal live album, the one that's most authentic to the original studio album and the original songs that are not from the studio album that they mainly focus on in this one, Megadeth's Rust in Peace Alive. But I do have other metal live albums that I could recommend to you after you die.
I was gonna say, go ahead. After the video, you're gonna have to give me a list.
Oh boy, okay. I got you.
You're already thinking.
Oh, I already got you. I already know. But
All right.
what's your first
I've got some honorable mentions next to me. I might have to take a peek though.
Because I only have two more honorable mentions, so.
Okay, go for them. Go for them.
No, we're alternating. You go next.
I have some of the pics from that one video I did with Roxanne. I could pick one of those ones, even though I've already showed them. But at least I kind of know what to say.
I don't have any alcohol with me, but you said Roxanne, so I gotta take a shot.
It's like ridiculous. I tried to edit some of it out where I like just bring up her name because like anytime I bring up her name, there's always a story that follows afterwards. So I'm like, I have to take that out because it'll just be a video about Roxanne plus some vinyl. But so Eric Clapton's Unplugged. It's so dark in my room. Maybe if I turn up the like brightness on my computer, but
well, it's a dark album cover anyway, so
yeah. Eric Clapton in general has just amazing live albums, but his Unplugged one hits a special place in my heart when it comes to like, you saw my like high school video where it got me through tough times in high school where it's just, it stays pretty low and pretty mellow. Even the songs that maybe weren't so mellow before, like Layla for sure went from like this really energetic song to this like dun dun dun. But the only part that I like really gets you up is San Francisco Bay Blues with the kazoos. That's always a fun tune, but you've got like Tears in Heaven, Lonely Stranger, Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out. It's like he's just like depression.
well,
But it's like
that was not too long after his son passed away, I believe. So I think that was a part of it.
Yeah, he's definitely in his like dark times with Connor having passed away. But I don't really know when he first played Tears in Heaven, but I think this is definitely like early Tears in Heaven for me at least, and Malted Milk. And there's actually like kind of a more extended version on Spotify that I first listened to, and he does this version of the song My Father's Eyes, and he released it later on an album called like Pilgrim or something like that. Or no, it's Pyramid, or it's something like that. Pyramid.
Yeah.
And I don't like that song at all from like the actual studio album, but it just sounds amazing when he did it live. And I think this is definitely one of those albums where most of the songs on here, I prefer hearing this version of it. Like if I was like, oh, I want to hear Lonely Stranger, I'd want to hear this version of it, and that's the version I'd look up. And I just think this is just such a great era of Eric. When it comes to his solo stuff, I mean, there's always Cream and Derek and the Dominoes, but I always loved the songs that he covered some of his older stuff that I just loved, and then he did a lot of his Journeyman tracks on here too. Which Journeyman in itself is just a perfect album, but then Take This next to it, it enhances. They both complement each other very well. So that's definitely was in my running, but I didn't want to show it because I just showed it in my last video. But I have to mention it, you know.
When it comes to Eric Clapton, for me, I prefer studio albums. I mean, I prefer live albums over the studio albums. Don't get me wrong, his studio albums are fine, but I'll always take the live stuff more. And Plugged and his live album 24 Nights are my favorite Eric Clapton live albums.
It's just he's got a certain charm to him that he doesn't lose it in the studio, but I feel like that certain charm that he has shows through more when he does it live. And there's just a certain, I don't know what it is. It could be like Paul, where he feeds off of the crowd, but I think he's more of a reserved person to where he musts it up himself, whatever it is that he does for his live albums. He conjures it all himself, and it's so raw. I love it. He just is so raw when he plays live, and it's always perfect.
With Clapton's studio albums, I mean, obviously things have to be produced, but I think compared to his live albums, some of his studio albums are just too produced. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're still great, but compared to the studio albums he did with, say, Cream, I know production techniques change, technology improves, and all that stuff, so it might not be as raw, or if you don't want it to sound as raw, you don't have to have it to, because 60s, 80s production, 90s production, okay, but you know, I just think that the live versions are better. And you mentioned that you didn't know where Tears from Heaven originally came from. It actually originally came from the movie August Rush, the soundtrack. He did the soundtrack for that movie, and that
they reissued that not too long ago.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the movie, but I know the soundtrack. So
okay, yeah, I don't think I've heard then is it like a studio version of it too?
Yes.
I've not heard that then.
The studio version is just as good as the live version. Both versions will bring a tear to your eye.
Yeah.
So
it's like the song is sad in itself, but the second you know the story behind it, it gets you even more. But
yeah, it most certainly does. All right.
Lighten up the mood.
Oh, we're going to lighten it up in a very weird way. We got a Frank Zappa live album coming at you.
Okay.
Broadway the hard way.
Okay. Tell us about it.
Now, of course, you already know that I recommended you this on the comment section of your videos when I first discovered your love of Zappa. Now, this was from 1988. So this is compared to what Zappa was doing in the 80s, this is very mellow, because 80s Frank Zappa goes batshit. To say
he had opinions, and he was going to make them heard.
Oh, yeah.
Especially lots of his jazz stuff was getting pretty crazy, too, but I love it. I love it all.
Oh, I love it all. I don't even mind the political stuff. I'm not even talking about the craziness of that. I'm just talking about the orchestrations and the instruments.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this is great because it starts off with a song called Elvis Has Just Left the Building. And this is coming out 11 years after his passing. So it's talking about Elvis passing away and all that stuff. It's just some wild thing. And I don't even think there's a studio version of that song. I think that's one he strictly did live. And then he does a quirky tune after that called Planet of the Baritone Women. And, I mean, just the title alone, you're just imagining these fat, heavy baritone women, like opera singer kind of stereotypical thing with the horns kind of thing. You're just imagining them walking around the stage, kind of doing their thing while this playing in the background. I feel like similar to the song "Broken Hearts Are for Assholes" from Chic Your Booty. There's a song on this album called "Dickie's Such an Asshole," which is kind of funny. There's a song on here called "The Ryman Man," which is great. That is definitely a highlight from the album, one of the most upbeat and fun songs. Why Don't You... I can't remember if it's the song The Untouchables or Why Don't You Like Me, but one of those songs is about Michael Jackson, which goes crazy. He does the live version of Outside Now from Joe's Garage, which Joe's Garage is my favorite Zappa
I was
album.
gonna say you said that was your favorite.
I don't even know which version is better. They just both slap. But and then I didn't mention every song here, but this album ends with Jesus thinks you're a jerk,
Yes.
and
He keeps poking. Like, and he has a live audience. He's like, let's see how high I can turn this up.
yeah, his albums, you can't say this on stage anymore or whatever. It's quite
Oh
relevant.
yeah, dude. I don't even think I could like finish those. Just like there's so many like volumes of it,
Yeah.
and like I mix them up sometimes. But oh my god, I love all of them. I love them.
Yeah, I haven't heard all of them, but I've heard that Volume 2 is the best one of them all.
I I have the problem with me is I'm all over the place with like his live recordings where there are like some songs that I love on like other volumes, but I really like like all of volume 1 cuz like volume 1 was pretty hefty.
Mhm.
And like I think even for Record Store Day they were going to do like a sampler of some of the songs from volume 1, I believe. But like some of my favorite songs that are on the first volume like weren't even on that. So I was like, well that it's not even worth it. But um God, volume 2. I'd have to look at the songs that are on there again. I mix them all up, but
That
yeah,
makes
I'll
sense.
have to get back on that.
And I don't know what the significance is of this picture on the CD. This is a reissue of the CD. I have some original CDs and then some reissues. This is one of the reissues, but it has like this teapot thing on it. I don't know.
No, I have no idea because I don't have the album, so I don't even know. Maybe the label looks like that too. Who
Maybe,
knows?
but it was on Zappa Records, so I would think it's on the red label with
Yeah,
the Zappa lettering, but I don't know.
huh. I
But
always liked it's. I there's maybe it's probably not even in an official release. It was originally, but I think on vinyl, it's probably not an official release, and it's called "Does Humor Belong in Music?"
oh yeah,
I that was always one of those live albums that always got me like laughing for Zappa, but it's pretty easy. And like you're talking about like how leftist he was. He has like a song on there called "Cocksucker's Ball," and in the very beginning, he's like, "This one's for all the Republicans in the audience."
goodness.
He's just one of those people that just keeps poking the bear, and he just really he keeps digging and digging and digging. There's no line for him. He like if there was a line, he knows he crossed it, and he's gonna keep going forward.
Now, while we're on the topic of Frank Zappa, I'm going to show you something that might make you drop your jaw. Do you know who that gentleman is right next to me there?
That Weasel?
That's Dweezil Zappa.
Oh my God! Did you see him?
Um, yes and no. And this is his autograph.
Oh my God! You
So,
gotta tell me about that now. You've moved on there, so let's go.
so one of my friends from community college, back when I was getting my associate's degree, my first of 3 degrees, I was getting my music technology and electronic music degree. And we were all just musicians. We were all just dweebs. We were all just nerds. So my friend worked at a School of Rock location, and he said, "Oh, why don't you come join? Dweezil Zappa is going to be going." So me and one of my friends and then him went. I was unfamiliar with Zappa, with the exception of the album Apostrophe at the time. So this kind of opened my eyes. This is at this show is where I discovered the song Zombie Wolf in my obsession that would then become an overnight sensation. So literally, I go, and then it's a School of Rock, and the kids are performing. So they do a whole bunch of performances. And then the kids are learning all these Zappa tunes, but they don't know why.
Oh my God!
Zappa comes out. He's like, "Hey guys, you want to play a number? I'm doing."
That would be so nerve-wracking.
So they performed Zombie Wolf. They performed, I don't remember what else. I think they might have done Yellow Snow. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But Zombie Wolf I remember because I specifically asked my friend, "What is this? I need this immediately." So yeah, it was cool. And I got to shake his hand, talk to him for a little bit, and then he gave me one of his guitar picks. I have it over there somewhere.
That's
And
ridiculous.
I met him, and there he is.
Oh my God!
So that is one of the few celebrities I've ever met. But
I was gonna say he came to Kansas City, and it was around my birthday, and I didn't quite have the money for it because I bought tickets for Bob Weir. And well, that obviously didn't like that concert didn't happen because of the whole Corona thing. But the Dweezil Zappa concert like was maybe a week or two before the Bob Weir one, and it was like right at the point of like right before everything closed up. And so I was like, should I go? Should I not go? Because I didn't really quite have the money for it, and I didn't really want to go by myself. So I didn't go, but that was like probably one of the last concerts like I've ever like heard anyone going to, because I was like I think that was literally like the next day, everything like all the like nationwide announcements about everything closing down. I'm like, he made it by the hair of his chinny chin chin for that one.
Yeah.
But it's crazy just how much everything has changed. But yeah, Dweezil Zappa, because he's doing his Hot Rats.
Yeah, he's doing Hot Rats right now, but he was doing a Zappa Plays Zappa, which my dad actually was on a business trip. He was actually in California, and for whatever reason, his work buddies and him went to see Zappa Plays Zappa, and my dad was sending me videos of Dweezil Zappa, and I was just like, wait a minute. You're listening to – why are you at it? It's Dweezil Zappa. This isn't the kind of music you listen to. So he brought back the ticket stub, and it was cool, so I have that too. But he saw the official thing. I only saw the redneck version, but it's still freaking cool. I met the man, so
I was gonna say you get the upper hand either way. You could always watch it online or something, but you got to meet him.
I wish I knew more about Zappa like I do now, because that was kind of what jump kicked me into seeing or learning more Zappa. Mm-hmm. On top of my friend introduced me to the song Broken Hearts Are for Assholes, which I will never forget the day I heard that and heard that song for the first time. He showed me that song in Titties and Beer.
Yes.
It was quite a time. We were laughing our asses off. But so literally there's that, and I forget, I just drew a blank, so I don't know where I was going with that. But
I was gonna say nothing like the spawn of Zappa to get you into Zappa, you know?
Now I remember where I was going with that. So, my friend introduced me to him, and I saw that performance, and my friend showed me those two songs, and then it got me going. So I wish I knew that, like, Dweezil Zappa was there when his dad was literally creating Joe's Garage and Shake Your Booty, because Dweezil was talking about how he remembers his dad were creating some of these albums, but I didn't know enough to be able to even ask him about that stuff, because I would have loved to have talked to him a little bit more and asked him about that stuff. But
yeah, I could definitely see like how frustrating that would be, because I'm still like within the past years when I really got really into Zappa, so like I'd probably be in the same boat too, you know?
Yeah.
Zappa
is one of those few musicians or people who have passed away that I would have loved to have a conversation with.
I'm gonna plug in my computer because I got the low battery warning, but you keep on going. Okay,
well then I'll let you play 2 more honorary mentions, or however many honorary mentions you want to do after this, because I only have one more. And, you know, I tried to steer clear of the stereotypical live albums, but, you know, this one I kind of just had to choose because it's one of my, next to the Genesis Live, this is probably my second most recent acquisition in regards to live albums. And I used to have this album on cassette. Don't know what the hell happened to it, but it disappeared. So when Emma at 8 Vinyl Low VCLT'd me this record, I was very excited, and it was Cheap Trick at Budokan.
All right. I want you to want me.
This is a flawless live album. There's a reason that it has the accreditation that it has. Obviously, I Want You to Want Me is the most popular thing off this. You hear the you hear the live version more than the studio.
Oh, yeah.
And thank God, because the studio version sucks. Me and Emma always go back and forth about that. She always jokes with me. She's going to VCLT me 3 copies of the album in color just so I have the studio version. So I'm waiting for those 3 copies, Emma. But the version of Surrender on this is fantastic. I mean, come on, fantastic. I mean, it's just great. And I don't know if I showed the gatefold yet, but great live shot. And I can't remember if this came with a poster or not. Did it? Oh, yeah, it didn't come with a poster, but came with a booklet. That's right. So it kind of has some more live shots with the band and all that. Good stuff.
Awesome. I love it. I saw Cheap Trick live because they opened for ZZ Top.
Yep.
So that was really like what kind of my first, because I hadn't really listened to too much Cheap Trick other than like their basic stuff, and like I'd listened to that live album before, But that was really kind of like the first experience of like, because they played some stuff that I hadn't even heard before. So it was kind of like that was like my first dive into some of the stuff I hadn't even heard. And everyone else around me was like getting really into it. I'm like, okay, I'm missing out on something here. So like when I got back, I definitely had to do some more digging when it came to Cheap Trick. They have a bigger discography than I thought.
Yeah, they're still doing stuff to this day, which is very impressive.
That's awesome.
So you want to show another honorary mention or two, and then I guess we'll wrap up?
Let's see. I gotta go through my rejects. I get to call them rejects because they're all great.
You're going to just start playing Gives You Hell in the background by the All-American Rejects. Move along. Maybe we'll play some of that too, because you just brushed over those, so you just got to move along past them now.
Oh, I don't know, man. Let's do a jazz album. I showed this in my video with Roxanne too. The Cannonball Adderley live at the club.
I was gonna say, if I owned that on wax,
it's always playing. It's probably playing a little too much, and it's in shrink wrap too. And it was like surprisingly, like at my like local record store, I paid like $5 for it, and I'd never seen it before. So I was like, because I had always listened to it, but I had never actually seen it, so I didn't really know around what the price range was. So when I first saw it, I was like, great, it's a jazz album. I'm not totally, I don't know like the specific range for a lot of his albums, what they're normally priced, but I just always assume if it's jazz and it's an album that I know it's probably expensive. But this was a big surprise to me. It might be, maybe it's a reissue or something, but there's the label, so. But.
No, the thing with that album, and if I had a physical copy of that album, that would have been one I pulled too, but I only have it digitally on my iTunes. So the thing with I mean, that's one of the most flawless jazz albums, live albums of all time. But and the only Cannonball Adderley live album I have at the moment is Why Am I Always Treated So Bad, which it was actually recorded at the same concert as that one. That's just like it's a part A and B kind of thing. The thing with Cannonball Adderley, or really any artist that's on the Capitol label or Columbia label, those are very readily accessible, and usually even the originals are cheap. And the originals, even white label promos of some of those on the Columbia and Capitol labels, you'll find them for $60. Which for some people might not.
Thank God for this one, then. Thank God. Thank you, Capitol.
Capitol jazz albums. I mean, I don't know the condition of that one that you have, but
it's in great condition. I don't know if it was to be pressed by a different record label, if it would sound better, but I mean, it sounds great to me personally.
But yeah, if is it in like VG plus condition near mint kind of?
Yeah. I mean, it's in the shrink too. It still has the like hype sticker on it.
Yeah. So that one would probably go anywhere between, depending on condition, anywhere between $5 and probably $5 and $20. So you got a good deal on that one.
I was gonna say I just wanted it, period. So I was just like stoked. I was stoked, and I took it home, and it's been in my constant rotation since then. But yeah, it's just Mercy, Mercy, Mercy was the first song that really one of the first songs that really got me big into jazz. And when I first heard it, I had such a good moment with that song that I was like, I'm not going to listen to the rest of the album until I have it, because I want that first experience, hearing it as a whole. I feel like it's kind of a whole experience within itself, and hearing it kind of like separately, like and all spaced out. So I remember I was spinning it one night, and I was kind of just like lounging around in my room. I wasn't really doing anything, and it was just amazing because I felt like I was so busy. I was doing nothing. It was just because I was so into the album. I felt like I was like there, like at the club with him, and like this little banter that he has. He's just such a great musician, and just that live album for me sealed the deal on even like exploring his other stuff and just exploring jazz as a whole. This kind of was like a Kickstarter for me. It really got me hooked for sure. But.
Yeah, and I love how that album introductions. Now it's time to swing with Cannonball Adderley and the Quintet. I love how you said quintet.
And it's like, because you'd expect like for like those more jazz albums for like a smooth interjection, but that was such like a happy like excited kind of tone to it.
Yeah, and jazz albums, especially the live ones, they're some of the best live albums out there. Don't get me wrong. Things like all the stuff that we showed here today are fantastic. But
yeah, I had a Herbie Mann one out like at the Village Gate. I'm a live album person that even extended into jazz. So
yeah, when I suggested doing a live album video, you're like, yes, that's right up my alley.
I'm ready. Like literally my whole pile. I'm that's gonna be my last like honorable mention because I could go on for ages. So,
but literally with jazz albums, like I love all those, but there's some live albums that you can't even hear the damn musicians because of how loud the crowd is going. But then you hear these jazz albums. Yes, you'll hear an occasional thing here too, but you're
forget until the song's over.
Yeah. The only other thing I'm going to say in regards to Cannonball Adderley and jazz albums as a whole before you go on to your last mention is music on Blue Note and Prestige are probably some of the most expensive jazz albums you'll find. So you usually want to get reissues of those, even more so. And there's an album by Cannonball Adderley. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but if you haven't, it's one of those essential jazz albums. It's an album called Something Else. And he does a version of Autumn Leaves, if I'm not mistaken, that actually opens up the album, which is fantastic. Okay. They released a bunch of albums for Blue Note's 75th anniversary back in 2014, the labels. And you're able to find those releases for $20. So I would definitely recommend getting that version of it, if anything. That's a version that I'm eventually going to own. I don't own that album. I only have it digitally myself, but that's a version I'm going to be getting for myself unless I find an original pressing for a decent price.
Yeah. All right, go on. That'll probably be my last one. I think I can't top that.
Well, I have no other live albums to show. So is that it then?
I guess so.
All righty. So then I guess that'll do it for the video. It's great to be able to have new people join me on the VC. Glad to have Jenna here. Hopefully you guys met and got to learn a little bit more about Jenna here today. And if you didn't, well, rewatch the video. And I shouted her out in the past. Well, technically this is a free shout out again with doing a collaboration. Her link will be below. And I encourage you to check it out. She's been in the VC technically 2 months, but she had one video out and then took forever to post another one. I discovered her once her next one came out.
Yeah.
But then, of course, I watched the other one. Really, her first one is a cool David Bowie-oriented one. You'll have to watch it to understand.
I had no idea what I was going to do going into that one. I'm just like, I just hit record and I was like, let's see what happens.
Yeah, but I liked it. I've loved every single one of your.
I was going to say, the people like on your channel, you give me so many shout outs, they're probably sick of me by now.
Well, it's my channel, so tough shit. The thing is, if people, there's going to be haters for everybody, but if people don't like what they see, oh well, it's my channel, just like you do what you do on your channel and everybody else does what they do on their channel. If they like you, thank you. If you don't, all right, leave me alone. You don't have to, you can't please everybody. So
exactly. So you got to please yourself.
Yes.
Wait, that's Garden Party. That's from like a song called Garden Party. Who was that by? You know that song?
I'm drawing it.
Someone in the comments will call me out for it. There's a song called Garden Party where it's like, you can't please everyone, so you gotta please yourself.
Yeah, I've never heard that, I don't think, before, so.
I'm gonna have to look it up once this is gone. Once this is over. That's gonna bug me all night now.
All right, but yeah, so thank you guys all for watching. Check out Jenna's channel. Maybe you even have some live albums to recommend us because in the grand scheme of things, I don't have a whole lot of live albums. I know the studio stuff. Jenna probably knows all the live stuff that you'll recommend, but you know what? Give them anyway. So
I was going to say, if it's a live album I haven't heard, I want to hear it. So, enlighten me.
Yes. So thank you guys for watching. Keep on spinning that wax. Thank you, Jenna, for joining me, and I will see you in the next Vinyl Record video.
Bye.